and welcome back to the channel. I hope that everybody is doing well today. If you are new here, then hi, my name is Brittany and I am a nurse practitioner. Everything on this channel is either nursing content or nurse practitioner content. So for today's video, I am going to be giving my 10 tips to be successful on your nurse practitioner boards exam. This is a question that I get from people all the time. What recommendations do you have to be successful on my boards exam? So I took the time to come up with a list of 10 that I think will definitely help you be successful on your first attempt at either the AANP or the ANCC Nurse Practitioner Boards exam. So I'm just going to jump right into the content. I'm going to give you my 10 tips. So make sure you follow along for the whole video so you hear all 10 of them. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video. It helps me out a ton. But yeah, let's just get into it. So the first tip, it is absolutely pertinent, I believe, to take a review course. That is, I think, the meat of being successful on your nurse practitioner boards exam is taking some sort of review course. Of course, I am going to recommend that you take my review course, the Brittany Holzbeck NP Review. I've helped thousands of students already pass their licensing exam. And what I did is, so when I took my review course, I took actually 2 review courses before taking my licensing exam. And I took the best parts of those review courses and I implemented them into my review course, and I added in areas that I think they were lacking. And so mine is system-based, which I definitely think is the easiest way to follow. So, musculoskeletal, endocrine, whatever. And it's just a lecture. And then after, there are review questions to make sure that you are retaining the knowledge. There's about 100 review questions on the review course. And then there's also a 3-hour pharmacology crash course. Pharm is huge on your boards exam. So that is an area that I really recommend that you hone in on. That was an area specifically when I did that ODA review course. I thought Pharm was lacking a little bit, and I wanted to make sure that Pharm was really highlighted in my review course. So there's a 3-hour completely dedicated to pharmacology crash course in my review. So definitely pick a review course that you feel comfortable with. If you are interested in taking my review course, everything will be linked in the description box below. There are 2 options. There's a $40 review course and a $60 review course. Both of them are the exact same content and material, but if you want to collect continuing education credits while you take the course, then you need to sign up for the $60 tier. Okay, so that's my first tip. You have to take your review course. I think that is monumental in passing your boards exam. All right, so number 2 tip is I recommend that you do as many questions as possible. So when I was studying for my licensing exam, I had questions on my phone. It was the FNP Mastery app that I had on my phone, and I would do questions anytime that I was sitting down. Instead of scrolling through Instagram or Facebook or Snapchat or TikTok, whatever social media platform that you find yourself scrolling, when you're preparing for your boards exam, I say forget about social media, and whenever you would go to pull out your phone, instead do questions all the time. And so I did the FNP Mastery questions and I did the leak questions when I was prepping for my boards exam. Like I said, there are about 100 questions on my review course. I tried to really word them in ways that mirror the boards exam questions. So I definitely recommend that you do all 100 questions on my review course, and then I still recommend that you do more questions. Do the leak questions and do the FNP Mastery. The FNP Mastery, for me, those were a lot more difficult, but they do kind of prepare you for those curveball questions that you will see when you go to take your exam. When I did leak, I didn't even read the book so much because I found a lot of mistakes in the text, to be honest, but I did really enjoy her questions, and so I recommend that you do all of her questions as well. Just as many questions as you can. Then you are likely to see repeat questions when you go take your boards exam. My third tip kind of correlates with that second tip, and that is to read all of the rationales. Anytime that you do a question, if there is a rationale available to you, whether you got the question right or whether you got the question wrong, read the rationale. Especially even if you got the question right. A lot of times what will happen is you'll get the question right and you will not read the rationale. But the rationale is going to give you information regarding why the other answers were incorrect. And you will be able to pull a lot of information from those rationales. So whatever you do, whatever question banks you use, make sure that you're reading the rationales, whether or not you get the question right or wrong. My fourth tip is to determine if you're going to be using a scrap piece of paper. So when you go to take your boards exam, they do give you a blank piece of paper that you are able to use as a scrap piece. So if there is something that you know going into the test that you want to write down really quickly to just have set aside so you don't have to think about it, determine that ahead of time. Determine what it is that you would put down on your scrap piece of paper. I was incredibly intimidated by the cranial nerves. Oh my goodness, I don't know what it was. I was so hung up on it, which is kind of silly because I only had one question that even pertained to the cranial nerves. But I was so hung up on it that was something that I practiced writing out beforehand. So when I got to my scrap piece of paper, I could just really quickly jot it down. I didn't have to worry about that. And so when that one question popped up, I could reference my scrap piece of paper. So if there is something that you know, like the cranial nerves or perhaps murmurs, something along those lines, or antibiotics, something that you really want to just jot down really quick, practice writing out that scrap piece of paper beforehand. So that way when you go in, it's a no-brainer. You write down your scrap piece of paper really quick and then you can just get back to taking your test. Okay, so number 5, my 5th tip is to really focus on the most commonly diagnosed diseases, disorders that you will see in practice. And I'm going to put these up on the screen now. Focus on what you are most likely to see. Things like hypertension or GERD or anxiety. Again, all of them will be up on the screen here, but you want to be focusing on how to diagnose, the first line treatment options, and then your follow-up plan. Those 3 things are huge for your boards exam, and they really want to know that you're going into practice as a new nurse practitioner prepared to manage these most common diagnoses. And so when you're focusing on your studying, these are the diagnoses that you really need to have a level of comfort with. Tip number 6, and this kind of correlates again with tip number 5, make note cards. I recommend when you are studying to use multiple platforms to retain the information. Listening to audio lectures, watching PowerPoints, watching YouTube videos, writing down note cards, reading your note cards, all of these different avenues to help you with your retention. I used note cards religiously when I was studying for my boards exam, and I think it was really a big part of why I was so successful on the first attempt. And so the way that it correlates with the 5th one is I want you to make note cards in regards to all of those most common diagnoses. You can make additional note cards if you would like, but those are the note cards that you really need to be taking with you everywhere you go, and really make them simple. This isn't the time to write out these long, lengthy paragraphs. You can take notes that way if that is something that you'd like to do, but your note cards, keep it really short and sweet, and that forces you to focus in on the most important facts. One thing that you can do that will really help you build your note cards is you can use my dump sheets, and the dump sheets are all in the review course as well. Every system I created a dump sheet, and it's just one page of those need to know facts. It's the most important meat of the material. So if you want to use those dump sheets to kind of create your note cards, then I think that's a great tool for you to use. Take those everywhere with you. So now when you pull out your phone, you're doing questions. When you're sitting and waiting somewhere, you're pulling out note cards. You are bringing this material with you everywhere you go, and you are using every bit of time to retain this information. I'm looking at my computer because this is where I kept my notes. So my 7th tip kind of goes to this too. Treat studying like your full-time job. This is huge for your career. You need to pass this boards exam to enter in as a nurse practitioner and begin your practice. If you are working, I was working when I was studying as well, and I was fortunately able to take some time off, and so where I was working like minimal hours, but I was still continuing to work. If you can, I recommend that you do that. If you can't, it's going to be a little bit harder, but it's definitely doable. This is a short amount of time in the big scheme of things, and if you got to work overtime, you can do it. Studying for you right now has to be a priority because, like I said, this is what is going to get you into your practice. I personally took 30 days to study for my boards exam. Monday through Friday, I dedicated at least 5 hours of studying every day. If it was broken up for, because I had kids and I had work and I had other things to do, but there had to be 5 hours out of every day where I was doing studying. And then on the weekends, it was flexible, but at least I was getting 25 solid hours of studying per week. But even on the days where I wasn't sitting down with a book and PowerPoints and all those things, I was still listening to audio lecture and I was still doing questions. That was constantly going on. You can ask my family, my kids, my husband, everybody was also studying for the boards exam at that time, because if I had any kind of audio on instead of music, which I would much rather have been listening to music while I was cleaning or exercising exercising or making dinner or whatever. Instead, I was listening to lecture. All right, so my 8th tip, and this is something I definitely did, as you can see by this YouTube channel, and that is to find people to teach the material to. If you can teach someone concepts, then that really shows that you have a good grasp on the material. And that is something that I did, and I stand by it. I really recommend find someone to teach the material to. Hypertension, for example. Go to your partner or your mom or your dad or your sibling or a friend, whatever, and sit down and be like,
hey, can I sit here and talk to you about hypertension to help make sure that I have a good understanding because I'm studying for my board's exam?
And then go over it. What causes hypertension? How do you diagnose hypertension? What are the first, second line treatments for hypertension? What are some red flags that you're looking for? What are your follow-up plans? If you can teach them all of this without having to reference, then that's a good indicator that you have a really solid grasp on the content. And then 9 and 10 are tips in regards to preparing for the day of. So the 9th tip I recommend is the day before. Make sure that you eat a good healthy meal, one that isn't going to give you tummy troubles. A good meal the night before. And honestly, I recommend the night before and the day of, you don't study. Everyone feels a little differently about this, but I really do think that you know everything you're going to know by that point. And so give yourself the night. Maybe take a nice warm bath. Make sure you get good sleep so your brain is functioning properly. Go easy on your body. Give her a break. Fuel your body the best that you can so you can be feeling your best self when you go into your exam the next day. And then my 10th tip, and this is something I also did because I definitely am the type of person that struggles with anxiety. And I'm always worried, am I going to find the place? Okay, what's the parking situation? Do I know where I'm going? So I really recommend that you do a practice drive to the location that you're going to be taking your exam. This was really something that calmed my nerves a lot. I did a practice drive actually a few days prior to my test. I checked out the parking situation, the door that I would need to go into. I checked the commute time. Was it a really heavy traffic area? All of those things just so I knew how to get there. I knew how much time to give myself. I knew the parking situation and I knew what to expect. For me, that really helped my anxiety. So if you are someone like that gets a little anxious about getting somewhere on time and parking and all those things, I really recommend that you do a practice drive. It will calm your nerves. One less thing that you have to worry about when you're going to take your exam. Otherwise, that is it. Those are my 10 tips. Let me know in the comments down below if you think I missed anything, if you have any tips to add on. I really hope so, if you are going to take your board's exam, that you found it helpful and that this puts your mind a little bit at ease and gives you a little bit of structure as to how you can go about preparing and studying for your board's exam. Again, don't forget that my review course, everything that you need to sign up for it, will be linked in the description box below. Otherwise, I wish you guys nothing but the best. Don't forget to learn something new every day, and I will talk to you guys soon. Okay, bye.